Now the third method is I've made a now this is getting a little bit more close to the way teepees are actually made. But what I did was I made my hemisphere point up away from the edge to draw the hemisphere. All right, and I made it on this one so that there's not much wastage at all. Matter of fact, let's put that. Here's what wastage ends up being. And you don't actually, on these tarps, you don't even really have to cut the pieces off. I mean, you can fold them under. That last one, the squashed one there, if you look at where the what do you call those things, where the grommets are on the original deal, it actually fits those cave tents or those tarp tents that are put up. I call them a stealth turtle tent, but so you don't even have to cut these, but it's okay to cut, nice to cut, makes everything work well. So on this hemisphere there, then you can make smoke flaps that go back. So you're going to get these two so far and this one coming are all symmetrical, even cones all the way around. Now on the front, I cut this and fold it under, and what's going to happen here is this is going to be your place where you overlap them, and you'll put lacing pins in to overlap. And then on this one, you're going to have to cut out your door, or you could not stake the two front parts and then pull it open to make a little triangle if you want. But on this one, you have this, and I double over. As you saw, I doubled over the stuff because the stress that the lacing pins put on makes it to where, it puts a lot of stress on and that doesn't end up being, what do you call that, productive or conducive to setting up your lodge well. So here, I did that like that. You get the benefit. You get the benefit of the wider floor, but although it's not as wide. And you get the benefit of smoke flaps, and you get the benefit of being able to cut open a door on this style like this. So these are three different styles, but they're all symmetrical. If you look at them from side to side, back to back, all the angles are all the same all the way around. The floors are perfectly circular. They are circular, circular, circular. The circular floors. And so now we get to my preferred. The preferred one is the actual more probable style. And the wastage is these materials here, like that. And you're able to get out of the wastage, you're able to get probably, there's a little bit more wastage than that too. This is more here, come on. There's more wastage up there on your tarp, on your 20 by 30 tarp. You got more wastage up here, but I can see where I'm able to make a 4-foot inner liner wall out of this. Probably a door. Probably maybe I can get a couple of more panels to add on to this inner liner to make it come around more towards the front. But for a liner, you really need the back of the teepee where you're going to sleep at to be the part that's the liner. So, whoops. So now on this, now this ends up being, this is a semicircle, but then you cut back. On this one, to scale, I'm cutting back 2.5 feet, 30 inches. And so this distance here is 30 feet. And ordinarily, this distance here would be 15 feet, but because I've taken off 2.5, it is now 12.5 feet. So your back is shorter and your front are longer, and therefore that's why when you put the poles out, your front poles are longer than your back poles, and we'll get to that part later. All right, so I'm folding this back for convenience. We also get this double front so that there's strength underneath where we put the lacing pins in, and they cross over. I'm going to do in this direction because that's more according to the way they are done in real life. And come on.
Yeah.
So you end up, tape coming off. You end up with something that looks more like a real authentic teepee, and it is straighter up in the back because it's shorter, and it's longer in the front. It's a tilted cone. Therefore, the floor, because this ends up being a conic section, the floor ends up being oval in shape instead of round. Excuse me. What they call an ellipse instead of being round. So it's narrower from side to side, and it's longer from front. It's narrower from side to side, and it's longer from front to back. It gives standing room in the back, and then your fire is forward, so the smoke comes up through where most of the poles are in the front. It's a different. There's advantages and disadvantages, but most of your 3 and 4 pole based teepees on the plain are asymmetrical cones, and then you're going to cut a door or leave this open in a triangular form. There's various ways to make doors. So, and then I said this can make a liner. So this liner would go on the inside, and it almost gives you enough to come all the way over to the front. You got to picture this on the inside of the teepee poles. So this ends up being a rather efficient way to do things that were more correct to call a teepee rather than just a conical. And so we have. Now this one I'm going to use internal poles. On this one, I'm going to use internal poles also. On this one, you can use internal poles, but this one works really nicely as a bipod or as a pole up the center, so a one-poler, or a line strung between 2 trees. I don't think you should hang a line from a branch because that branch will come down, but string a line between 2 trees if you want to not have a pole in the center or you don't have access to poles. So this is a good method for that. And again, you don't have to have these smoke flaps on. You don't have to have this. You can pull it all together, but get the most bang for your buck out of your tarps. Okay. So now on this other symmetrical one here, okay, we're getting kind of crowded here. On this other hemisphere one, check it out. It does look like it's bigger than, it does look like it's bigger than that. But you don't have smoke flaps. You do have wastage, but you can use the wastage. On this, you can put a center pole or hang it, but not from a branch. You want to put a line or a board or something between 2 trees. A bipod works, external bipod, an external tripod, an external quadrupod if you want. So that is the cone. The cones basically that I work off of: the semicircle, the 2/3 circle, the hemisphere that's extended, which you do see teepees like this among different tribes because teepees are not universal among tribes. And guess what? They're not all called teepees because they all have different languages. And then on this one, which is more commonly seen, And this is my preferred method for making teepees. So when I go out and show you on the large pieces of canvas or tarps that I use, you'll end up seeing these types of patterns, and then I'll go through where I'm going to talk about bipods, one poles, string and a line, tripod bases, quadrupod bases, and then adding in all the poles and stuff like that. So, I think I should mention one other thing. The semicircle one, I end up having 8 sides. The squash 2/3 cone, I end up having 12 sides. So when you add your tarp clips at the bottom, or your grommets, or however you want to do it, but tarp clips work great as long as the tarp isn't too thick. This ends up being 13 tarp clips. It's 12 sections, but there's 13. So now some people actually add an additional stake or tarp clip in between everything, which, this ends up being a 4 or 5 foot distance here. And, you can close that gap a little bit better. You do not have to have a double wall. You can, stake these right down to the ground if you want, but unless you've got some good openings out the top, you are going to have a problem with dew on the inside every single morning, even in the desert. I don't care where you're at. But you can stake these out as much as you want. Now, when it comes to teepee poles, some people, where a teepee pole comes down, some people put stakes there where each pole comes down. I personally put stakes in between poles. But you can also do, both. You can do them in between the poles, on the poles, and the more the merrier. All this depends on what your budget is, or what materials you have. You can make these out of bed sheets, canvas, plastic tarps, plastic sheets, drop sheets from painter's cloths. There's just, carpets. Come on now, you can find old carpets that people throw away, and you can make these out of carpets. My, what I call a freepie is when you find a tarp along the highway. And once I found a 20 by 40 foot tarp, so I was able to make a 20-foot diameter teepee lodge out of that. And it was a freebie because it didn't cost me anything other than my time cutting with a pair of scissors, drawing a line to inscribe the circle. Sure, have to go get poles and stuff, but or like I say, like a para teepee, you can pull up the top and string it from 2 trees or 1 branch, which is never should do that. So there you go. And I use the same 15 by 30 foot piece of cloth. So what you can see is that this one, the 2/3, ends up giving you the largest amount of space that you can get. So keep that in mind. Now, I like more authenticity with real type, what I call authentic teepees, but these are cool. These conicals, these cones, these, what you want to call teepees if you want, they work. They work well under winds. They shed water. They work really well under winds, especially if you stake them down a lot, or you put rocks or logs along your cloth on the ground to hold it down, or whatever. I mean, these things work really, really, really well, but they're not for hiking the Appalachian Trail, okay? You need something lightweight, smaller for that. All right, I think I'll wrap it up. Call it a cut, a quit. Yep, blah. Have a good day. Bye-bye.